All right, I do not see the numbers changing at all. Looks like all the participants are probably here. And if not, they can catch up. So again, everyone, welcome to the Code Platoon virtual info sessions. My name is Greg Drobny. I am the Student Outreach and Recruitment Manager. As you can see on the slide there, my email, please at any point, feel free to take that down, use it, contact me at any point. That is what I am here for. So I encourage you to reach out to me and to anyone else who is on this presentation as well, for that matter. We're pretty open to communication. We try to keep an open book here at Code Platoon. On that note, I will be showing a few slides just to kind of give you some information, and for that purpose, so that you can have that as reference. But this is going to be a little more casual. We don't want to make it like just bombard you with slide after slide. We're going to be presenting you with a little information, but opening up plenty of time for question and answer after we give that information. So be advised of that. You will have a chance to have your questions answered. So joining me is Kayla, by the way. She's behind the scenes. You can't see her. She's on the marketing team and a fantastic help with presenting these, because she handles all the background stuff that makes it much easier for me. So we'll put her information up here towards the end as well. And thank you, Kayla. So today's agenda: who we serve, our programs, funding and scholarships, our application process, timings and deadlines, career placement services. So we're joined here by our career placement team. They will be here to not only give a short presentation, but also answer questions that you have about career services at the end of Code Platoon. So for our Code Platoon graduates who are looking to strike out into the world of software development, that's who will be helping you. So they're here to answer all kinds of questions on that topic. Next slide. Who we serve. For those who are unaware, Code Platoon is a nonprofit that is devoted to the military and veteran community. And those demographics that you see listed up there are the only people we serve. So a lot of people don't realize when they come to Code Platoon, they think that we specialize in the military community. No, that is our demographic. That is who we serve: veterans, military spouses, and service members who are in the midst of transitioning out of the military. That is the only classmates you will have at Code Platoon, are people that are directly associated with the military community, which I think helps a lot of students in many, many ways, but it also helps in the career services aspect of things. When you get to that point, they know what it's like. They know what it's like to be a member of the military and to approach the job services path a little bit differently. So next slide. Our programs, until very recently, we had basically only had our full stack immersive curriculum, software engineering curriculum. We are expanding a little bit beyond that. I won't get too much into that tonight, just because we don't. That will be next year. We will have a DevOps curriculum that is forthcoming, but as of right now, our programs that is available right now is our full stack software engineering. That is offered in basically 3 different ways. The full-time is offered either in person or remote, and that's the same program either way. For the record, that is if you attend the full stack immersive program, it doesn't matter if you attend in person or remotely, you're attending with the same people at the same time. You're doing the exact same curriculum. You're getting the exact same classes. It's not a different class. It's just that you're either in your kitchen or your living room, or you're in our Chicago classroom. But that same program is also stretched out over a 28-week period to be our evening and weekends model. And that's for those of you who just cannot leave your job, don't want to leave your job, or for whatever reason you want to continue working and you can only do the evenings and weekends. That is a Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 5:30 and 9:30 p.m. Central Time class, and also a Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. over a 28-week period. And again, that first option, the full immersive program, is Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30, very long days, very intense. program. We tell people to basically give up most of your life through that period. It's going to be an intense run, but well worth it. So next slide, please. Funding and scholarship options. This is a very common question that I will address very briefly here and open up for questions later, of course, if you want. But how do you pay for Code Platoon? There's a few different options that we offer. GI Bill is an option if you attend in person. GI Bill will not pay for a program like ours if you are remote. That's an important distinction that people need to be aware of. For everyone else, for Vet Tech is a great option from the VA. Vet Tech is a program that is basically built for programs like ours. So you can use that in person or you can use that remote. You can also use it for our evening and weekend program. VRAP was a program from the VA that was created during COVID pandemic time, had a lot to do with job loss and training to reintegrate into the job market. That is, last I heard, going away after December 31st of this year. So if you took our class that started October 3rd, the last available cohort we have this year, VRAP is an option, but after 2022, it is going away. VR&E, often referred to as Voc Rehab, also an option. And then for those who do not use a VA option, we do have generous scholarship offerings going all the way from 80 to 100% tuition coverage on those scholarships. And the way we do scholarship applications is different than your typical college. So don't think that it's like you have to write 10,000 word essays and submit them to us for scholarship applications. We make it a lot simpler than that. So if you're not VA eligible for something, say you're a military spouse, we have scholarships that are specifically for that. Keep that in mind as we're moving forward. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a two-step application process. And again, I'm going through a lot of this fairly quickly. We have plenty of time to ask questions about this later on, so do keep that in mind. But I want to give a quick overview of how one gets into Code Platoon. Two-step application process. Part one is a simple intake form. Tell us about yourself, who you are, where you come from, what branch of the military you're in, things like that. Part two is where things get a little bit more involved. We do have coding challenges, video, and essays that have to be completed. Primary emphasis being on the coding challenges. Now, the immediate question that comes up for most people is, if I'm coming to Code Platoon and I want to learn coding, why do I need to be able to solve coding challenges? Why is that a thing? We provide the resources to be able to do that. So we actually have a free introductory program that you can go and access on our website right now. It's under admissions prep on our website. You can look up something called Intro to Coding, a little tab that pulls down under admissions prep. Click on Intro to Coding, and it's a free program that is designed to help you do exactly that, to prepare you for the coding challenges on the application. So it's kind of a way to evaluate whether or not you kind of have that acumen for learning a new skill, while also giving you a free opportunity to investigate whether or not this is the right path for you. It's a great way of investigating, is this something that you want to do? So that's what the application process looks like. Again, after all of part two is submitted, that is when a student is evaluated, and then they're given a evaluation on whether or not they're accepted to Code Platoon. Again, I can go into more detail on this, but this is kind of a brief overview version of that. Next slide. Okay, so upcoming cohorts and deadlines. And these deadlines, just exactly what I was just mentioning with the completed application. Part two of the application needs to be in before the deadline. That's what a completed application is considered. So Sierra Platoon is our next available cohort. I should say Sierra and Delta. Sierra is our next full-time available cohort. That begins October 3rd of this year, and the deadline to apply for that is June 26th. The evening and weekend cohort, Delta Platoon, begins the same day, October 3rd. Application deadline for that is July 10th. Next would be Tango Platoon, February 6th of next year, and then Echo is the next evening and weekend cohort, and that begins May 30 of next year. Next slide. So just a quick introduction. As I said before, on board with us tonight is our career services team. Rich and Tish are both with us. They are fantastic at answering your questions and addressing the question of what comes after Code Platoon. And that's really, if I'm honest, that's why Code Platoon was created in the first place. Rod Levy, our executive director, wanted to address the problem of veteran unemployment and giving viable, employable skills to veterans that they could not just get a job with, but launch an actual career. So that is exactly what we address. That's our mission. That is what we want to do. And where the rubber really meets the road, as the saying goes, with that is our career services. So you graduate, then what? Well, that is exactly what Rich and Tish are here to address this evening. So Rich, I think you're up first and want to address a few things, and then you can take it from there.
Thank you so much, Greg. And just want to give you a quick introduction. My name is Rich Luby. I'm the head of career services, and my colleague on the screen as well, Tish Johnson, is our career coach and our enrollment coordinator. Tish, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Happy to meet you all. Thank you.
Yes. And so Greg kicked it off. You actually kind of stole my show there. He brought up some good terms that I'm going to steal from you, Greg. Yeah, the whole goal, obviously, we go through a very intense program. My hat's off to you. I tell you right now, I cannot do what people do in class. I'm a social butterfly. I could talk your ear off. I could build relationships, and I know career services, and I know how to get technical jobs, but to do the technical skill set, nicely done. But like Greg just said, the whole goal is to come learn that technical skill set and then apply it to a career path, right? And so the career services is a 6-month collaboration between you and us, career services. Our primary goal is to help you, the student, become competitively employed by understanding your prior experience and then developing a resume that speaks to your transferable skill sets prior to coming to the program. And the way that we do that throughout the 6 months is a structured out career services roadmap. Next slide, please. So the career services roadmap, what is it? I created a fancy term. It's not rocket science. I'd like to take a lot of credit, but it's very simplistic. But it's very effective. And so throughout the 6 months, there's specific stages that you, the student, and the career services team truly focus in on to make sure that you are career ready to apply to a role. The first stage, as you see here, is resume building. And so throughout the first couple of weeks, we get a better understanding of who you are prior to coming to class, and then who you are after class. Combined with your prior experience and your technical skills, where do you want to go? What do you want to be when you grow up? That's kind of what we discuss. And the first stage, as I said, was resume building. So we really hone in on making sure that you're speaking to the skill sets that you had prior and the new skill sets that you've learned, and starting to draw attention to your resume as somebody within software engineering. The next stage is job matching. So it's really hard, and it's kind of nerve-wracking and scary at times to say, you know, I'm looking, there's just so many options, so many different avenues, so many different places I could look for jobs. How do I know if I'm qualified for a job? These are the things that we address with you and we help you answer. We really showcase where you should be looking for work, what type of roles you should be looking for, and specifically what type of years of experience would you qualify after the program. The next stage is the application life cycle. So gone are the days of you applying to a job and waiting to get a call back. The application life cycle is the full umbrella of finding a job, applying for a job, and then following up on that application and developing relationships, which funnel into the next stage, which is networking and personal branding. That's where you're really starting to network yourself and brand yourself in your new industry. We do that on your resume, and then we also do that through your social media outlets, and then also start navigating cold emails and things of that nature. The next stage is interview prepping. So you apply to a job, you're getting some traction, people are looking at your resume, and now you have a job interview. Oh, holy crap, what do I do? This is where we come in. We hopefully control those nerves, and we build your confidence in answering interview questions, the top 10, top 15, specifically catered to software engineering. And then the final stage is typically salary negotiating. So we want to make sure that you completely understand what your worth is. in correspondence to where you live and your personal background. We want to make sure that you are asking for the right salary, at an entry level role, and that you can back it up with facts and stats and do it with confidence. So that's a quick snapshot of that roadmap. Along with the roadmap, there's some other things that we provide as resources throughout the 6 months. It's weekly check-ins. So we check in with students either one-on-one or in teams. And then we also provide homework assignments so that we make sure that you are progressing. And those homework assignments are not just for you, the student, they're for your career coach as well, so that we're holding one another accountable and we're making sure that we're hitting the mark that you set out as your goal in terms of employment. And then we also have periodic employment intro sessions. These are opportunities for employers to come in and provide an introduction of entry-level opportunities that fit your skill set. This is a way that some of our partner employers can have a warm handoff to you, the student. Now, I spoke quickly and I shot through that, but I'm gonna let you know that I will be here at the end to answer any questions you may have in regards to the career services. And Tish will also be here to answer questions as well. Next slide, please. So the one thing that I want to mention about career services, it's a 50-50 relationship. It's a give and take. Tish and I are only as successful as the information that you provide and the engagement that you provide to us. So we ask you, the student, to have an open line of communication with us. We operate on Slack, which mirrors your in-class time. We set it up so that it's not foreign to you after graduation. We try to mimic and mirror everything that you go through and operate on during the class within career services. We ask for ongoing feedback to us to make sure that we're hitting the mark. I always say to students, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I guess it's the East Coast vibe. Tell me I stink and tell me why, and I'll fix it. And honestly, hopefully you're ready for me to tell you, all right, you need to work on some stuff too. Commitment to a schedule and a structure. I always say looking for a job is a job itself. So creating a structure that works for you, that goes with self-studying, self-coding, and then implementing some of our career services homework, but also personal, taking care of yourself. Go to the gym, take lunch, take some breaks. Mental health is extremely important in this aspect. Another thing is teamwork, working with your fellow classmates to ensure that you guys are motivating one another to move forward in the career services aspect and in the search. Flexibility and a willingness to take our recommendations. I'm not going to say I'm always right. I'm fine. I'm not always right. I'd like to think I'm always right, but we really encourage you to take our recommendations. A good example is, let's say I give you recommendations on a resume, right? But you really like what you did. You think that it's going to work out well. Fine. How about have an A and B resume and send them both out? Let's test it. A and B testing, see what's getting traction, and we'll come together and work off of the outcomes on that. And so just to give you an understanding, based on these expectations on engagement, there are some outcomes here. There's a direct correlation between the level of engagement and securing employment. I've seen it time and time again. After 6 months, we are currently averaging over 80% placement rate. So 8 out of 10 students are getting jobs within that 6-month window. And the average salary at the 6-month mark is about $72K. Now, obviously that depends on where you're living and what type of role and what type of company, but that's the average. And then the standard entry-level roles that students are getting are entry-level software engineers, QA engineers, or site reliability engineers are 3 of the top jobs that students are landing. Once again, I talked fast. I will be here at the Q&A aspect, so I can answer any questions for you. Perfect timing. Any questions?
Yeah, feel free to put your questions in the chat if you have any. We have Tish and Greg and Rich all here to answer them for you. We've got plenty of time, and fire away.
I don't see any questions yet, so I'll tell you what, I'll head it off and I'll ask a question that I get frequently, and it's probably on the minds of some out there. So Rich or Tish, I don't care whoever wants to answer this, but let's say I come to Code Platoon, and let's say I'm a military spouse. I move a lot with my spouse, and what really attracts me to the software engineering field is the potential for working from home. what are my chances, first of all, of finding that right off the bat, and number two, developing a whole career out of remote work. And of course, with the knowledge that this has changed dramatically over the last 2 years, but what do you tell somebody in that situation?
Well, thanks for kicking it off and asking that question. I do hear that a lot. Software engineering, but all industries, especially during COVID, it's not after COVID, during COVID, everybody's going remote, and the flexibility of remote is phenomenal. And companies are realizing that they can get a lot done, not being in the office, while saving money for not paying for office space. And so this industry in particular has a lot of opportunities for remote work. The one thing that you have to realize is understanding the expectations of a certain role. If you're going for a West Coast job, make sure that you're willing to work West Coast hours, things of that nature. But the opportunity is there. And I wouldn't say that the structure of looking for a role changes much, just the making sure that you set boundaries as well within that role. Because when you work from home, which I do, by the way, I'm in Connecticut, you end up working a lot more than 40 hours at time to time. So make sure that you're ready for that. I hope that answered your question, Greg. Did I miss anything?
No. I think that's great. Tish, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to echo Rich's statement. The flexibility is there. COVID has been, not the best, but it's the blessing that has come out of it has been the opportunities that have opened up. But like he says, particularly in this field. So it's very open, and, flexibility and time management is key.
The one thing I do want to add, especially if you are entry level with zero experience prior to coming to Code Platoon, which is majority of the students, if you're really out to get a remote role, I would highly recommend that you really research the company about their mentorship around entry-level folks, because learning entry-level software engineering remotely is a little more tough than being in the office and having somebody to bounce ideas off. It's not impossible with Slack and a lot of companies and different messaging apps like that, but make sure that you have a good structured mentorship and people you can rely on.
Sure.
Absolutely.
No, that's a good point. It's a good
We
point.
do have a couple questions. I'm going to start in the Q&A. Chris asked, is the course taught by professors, TAs, or both?
Okay, so I'll field that one. Who the course is taught by, we typically have 2 full-time instructors, and they are the instructors who have worked at Code Platoon full-time since I've been here for 2.5 years, have been software engineers themselves, who have kind of taken a step away from that field for a while to do instructing. So these are professionals. These are people who actually work in the industry and who are very conversant in whatever they're teaching. They've used it, they've implemented it. In addition to that, typically we have at least 2, sometimes even 4 teaching assistants. Often they come from university programs. They are either computer science degree holders, or sometimes, juniors, seniors in a computer science degree. And we also have visiting teachers who would come over from the university to give guest lectures. I think we might even have a YouTube video explaining some of that, of who teaches, but maybe that's a good one for an upcoming session. That would be a great topic to cover. But the broader answer to that question is that Code Platoon strives to always have a good instructor to student ratio. That's one of the things about being a nonprofit that's focused on this community, is that you're never going to have 100-person class with one person leading it and get lost in the mix. You will have plenty of help, and there will always be people there there are a lot of people who volunteer their time to mentor and help out at Code Platoon as well. So we try to keep that ratio as low as possible for that purpose, so that people are not lost, and you have some very knowledgeable people who are leading class that, like I said, have implemented that in the professional tech development world as well.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Next question. For those with little to no experience, how successful are they in completing the program, and how do they compare to job applicants with more experience or those with college degrees?
I would say, and Rich might want to field this one too, but I would say it's a rarity that we have people with college degrees in this field. Like, that's not the norm. The norm is that we have people who are not experienced in this field. And that's kind of our average student. So those numbers that you see in terms of success are largely reflective of people who came to Code Platoon with maybe a little bit of knowledge in coding, but mostly not. I don't know, Tish or Rich, if you want to add to that, by all means, do so.
Yeah, I actually was going to say, I think we both could feel that. So I'm glad that you kicked it off. I was going to take part of it next.
Yeah.
I remember the stat that we most recently had. It was just under 50% had some type of a degree. That could be a 2-year degree or something along those lines, but minimal level of coding experience. These degrees were in a variety of different areas. And so you were right with that. And so the majority of people graduating came with 0 level or very low level of experience, and they make up most of that 80% of placement rates. The next part of that question, I believe, was how do they compare against a 4-year degree individual? That's a really good question. And the best way that I could describe it, actually, I took this from Rod, our CEO, says that the 4-year degree people, he looks at those as the architects. Really, through the 4 years, they're really learning the full aspect of the industry and software development as a whole. And coding bootcamp students from Code Platoon are the carpenters. They're getting their hands dirty immediately. They're getting hands-on experience, and they learn how to learn to code. That's it. They learn the fundamentals on learning how to code. So it all depends on the organization. Very political answer, I know, but more and more organizations are realizing that because of the talent shortage, they really want people that are down and dirty, getting their hands in the code and having hands-on experience. So a lot of coding boot camps are landing opportunities, and organizations are more and more willing to see that in their entry-level roles.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that answer.
Yeah.
Another question, this one will be for Greg. How likely is vet tech funding? And this is from John, who is looking to start in early 2023 remotely.
The likelihood of vet tech funding right now is very high. So up until about a month ago, I would always say that vet tech is a great program. It's one of the great creations of the VA of the last few years. But the caveat to that was that it had limited funding. Vet Tech was a pilot program from the VA, and they started with something like $15 million per fiscal year. And we went through a couple cycles here at Code Platoon where that funding was literally gone in a month. So October 1st comes along, beginning of the fiscal year, Vet Tech, new funding, and by November, it's dried up. It's literally gone. Just recently, and I don't quote me on the exact date, but it's about a month ago, Congress, and then following that, the president signed into law a new funding pool for vet tech that vastly increased its funds. I don't know the exact dollar amount. What I can tell you is that we are not currently worried about vet tech funding, and that it's a great program. And right now it's running fairly well. I mean, as well as a VA program can in that realm. But the vet tech funding issue has largely been addressed for the time being. October 1st, new fiscal year, it should see even more funding, but the short version of the story is that they've vastly increased their funding. The long version is that even our COO, Alicia Body, was actually testifying before Congress just a couple months ago, being a champion for veterans in the tech world for exactly this reason, addressing tech, funding issues for vet tech. So, good things are happening with vet tech. So I highly encourage you to apply for that if that's on your radar at all. Do apply for it, and it's definitely on the table as an option.
Perfect. I'll jump right into another vet tech question we have. Jeremiah says, if I am accepted into Code Platoon prior to December, but I'm slotted for a cohort after December, is vet tech still an option?
Yes, it is. And it shouldn't change anything. What we've seen is that if you have a certificate of eligibility for vet tech, they're honoring that. So if you've got your certificate, you should be fine. Get accepted to Code Platoon. Tish, I know, works with the enrollment process and can probably speak more authoritatively to that. But I think, Tish, am I right in saying that it should
Yes,
be okay?
that's correct. Yeah, apply once you get accepted here immediately. If you can apply for vet tech, and then once we had that certificate of eligibility, you're good to go.
And what if they already have a certificate, say from a few months ago, it's still
They're
carried
still good.
forward? Okay,
Yep.
that's what I thought. So
Mhm.
yeah, you should be on good standing there, Jeremiah.
All right, perfect. Another question from Jeremiah, actually. This one will be for Rich and Tish. Are most students successful landing jobs in Chicago and compared to other locations?
I'll take this, Tish. And the answer is actually, and this is only because we're brick and mortar location in Chicago. And so since 2016, we've been operating, and early on, majority of our corporate relationships were closely surrounding the greater Chicago area. And so the answer is, if I had to be a betting man, you probably can have more connections with opportunities and employers in Chicago just because that's where we're centrally located. That being said, our remote classes have been growing and growing, and our relationships have been expanding well beyond the Chicago area. But if you're saying, if I had to give an answer, I'd say Chicago, being in person in Chicago does probably strengthen the opportunity just because where we're located.
All right. A question from Chris. If I already have a decent paying job and don't want career services, can I still do Code Platoon just to learn how to code?
Short answer is absolutely yes, you can. The longer answer is that I would caution you greatly against the full-time immersive program. That's not something, and Rod Levy, our executive director, would be the first to tell you this. That's not something you would do at the same time. Working and doing our full-time program is just not feasible. That is why we have our evening and weekend cohort. And yes, that's absolutely an option if that's something you want to pursue. In that event, what we would, there are some recommendations in terms of funding, like Vet Tech itself works off of job placement afterwards and how that works. So we would have to address that in the enrollment process.
Mhm.
But, Code Platoon is going to immerse you like no other. Yes, there are other coding boot camps out there, I should say, but it's a great option as far as learning how to write code and become a software engineer. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Let's put it that way, but do understand that it is a very intense program. And it's not something that you should just kind of lightly dabble in terms of the actual cohort. We do have, as I said earlier, we have our intro to coding. It's a free program. You can start out there and, get going there and do our application. And if you're accepted, well, that gives you a pretty good idea of whether or not, this is something you want to continue to pursue. So yeah, I think that's a decent answer anyway.
Absolutely.
I'll
Yeah.
accept it. That's a good one.
Yeah. Last question for now. So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to go ahead and add them at this time. How hard is it to get accepted into Code Platoon? What is the acceptance rate?
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple numbers here, Chris. And the first number I'm going to give you is going to be terrifying, and it's going to make you feel like this is an impossible task. But then I'm going to follow that up with something a little more encouraging. In any typical cohort cycle, we typically get somewhere around 500 applications. And our recent cohorts have been about 40 students. So somewhere around 40 student size. So that right there sounds terrible. It sounds like 500 down to 40. This seems like an impossible task. How am I going to make this happen? However, what I want to follow that up with is that of those 500 applicants, most of those folks never go on to part 2 of the application. They only complete part 1 and they stop before they ever complete part 2. Out of those the 40 students that we take, say that we've had over the last few cohorts, I would say those are taken out of a pool of about 60 people who actually completed part 2 of the application, maybe a couple more, maybe a couple less, but really completing the application, the full application, part 1 and part 2, puts you in a really good place. Doing the whole application, submitting all your coding challenges, puts you in a great place. Now, obviously, you are going to be evaluated on the coding challenges and how well you do on those, things like how many points you score, understanding code quality. But that's why we have the intro to coding program. So for those who go through the whole intro to coding program and submit a completed application, you're in a pretty good spot there. So, and this is the number that I really want to get to, is that it doesn't matter, because here's how Code Platoon works. If you submit a good application, if you submit let's say an A-level application, they don't grade it on an ABC format necessarily, but if you submitted an A-level application, it doesn't matter how many other applicants there are. Code Platoon has gone, since I've been here in 2.5 years, we went from 12 to 14 students up to somewhere around 40 per cohort. And we've just added instructors to help out with that. The point being is that it's not necessarily a competition against other students, it's a competition with you. And if you can submit a very good quality application, then you're in a great place, and you'll be in a great place in the application process.
Yeah, absolutely. We did get another question in. How competitive are the scholarships, and how many do you award?
You know what, Tish might actually be the better person to answer this question. So I can certainly add a couple of thoughts, but she might have a little more detail on the numbers if you want to give any numbers to that question.
Oh, I'll say the application process for, like you said, Greg, earlier, is not extensive. It's, we have different scholarships based on different categories. So for example, military spouse scholarship, a veteran scholarship, a person of color scholarship, Black and Hispanic scholarship. So each cohort, we try to distribute them fairly. We do look at essays. It's not detailed, but just like a short essay about why you want to be considered for the scholarship. And the number, honestly, is based off of the number of students we have for that cohort. And we like I said, we distribute them pretty fairly. And we try to do, at least a few for each category, each cohort, if that helps. But it's a simple Google form, and we review it. I'm a part of the committee. So just give it a shot. And even sometimes we even do partial scholarships as well. So you may have partial vet tech funding and a partial scholarship. So it's based on your essay and, your need as well.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you for answering. That's all the questions we have. So unless anyone has anything last minute to throw up, into the chat, then thank you all for being here.
Audience, you made it too easy for us. Come on.
Yeah, I was waiting for some hard
I'm ready.
questions.
I'm ready.
I want to see Rich weave some magic and come up with
Yeah. And then when I don't know it, I'm like, well, Greg's got the answer for that one.
Throw it at me. I'll just say I'll just use a bunch of military acronyms and make it sound like I really know what I'm talking about. Thank you to all. I mean, if there aren't any other questions, do keep in mind too. And I think we've got the contact info up here on the screen. All of us are accessible via email, and all of us are eager to respond and answer questions. I mean, that's what we do. That's what I do. I'm here to answer questions about this program. And I know that Rich and Tish are immediately accessible as well. I think we'll be putting this video up on YouTube. Kayla, is that the plan, I think, right?
Yes, we will be distributing the recording tomorrow or Monday.
Fantastic. So if you did miss any of it, we'll have it up there. Or if you, even better, want to share it with other people, we highly encourage you to do exactly that. But otherwise, if there are no other questions, thank you all. Thank you to Rich. Thank you to Tish. Thank you to Kayla for helping this run. Any alibis, any other questions, comments, concerns?
And I'll also add, guys, if you have any specific vet tech or VA related questions, I can answer them individually as well. If you shoot me an email.
Thank you, Tish. Appreciate it. And Rich, for your time. Everybody, thank you. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you each one, and hopefully that we can serve you in the near future. Otherwise, have a great evening and talk soon.
Thanks all.